Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us here at the Agents of Aquarius, episode 22. I'm here with my best friend and comrade, Mr. Matty D. We are here to help spread some information, hopefully shine a little light into the dark places, and bring a little light of consciousness on how to handle and how to adjust and think within these times that are changing ever so rapidly. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, my man, Mr. Matty D.
My brother, Jimmy Pine. Good to be here again. What is
Yes,
this
very good.
episode?
Uh,
222?
it's a master builder number 22. We've reached our second master builder number after 11. And here we are. We're building a program. And this is we're making it happen, baby.
All right, 22.
It's a wild time. The news is absolutely on fire. Once again, we are only we're less than 60 days into the year of 2024. We have seen a news cycle within this year that can be 2 years long of news cycles, from actions of violence against other countries, supporting violence. It's just completely wild.
Something's always happening, though, isn't it?
It's always happening, and that's on good and bad terms. Like it's not just like only bad. Like there's good is somehow aligning and then counteracting the bad, and we're going to be okay, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, follow up to last week. The farmers are still spraying shit on European Parliament buildings.
Yes, they're full on assaulting, tearing down blockades with their tractors, because they didn't show up just to plow fields. They showed up with forklift, and they showed up with buckets on the front, like a backhoe bucket and all that. Like they're destroying stuff, and the police ain't doing dick.
Yeah. No, there's crazy stuff with the news. The fact that the police are not doing anything to those protesters, I think, is surprising and amazing. But what was the trucker protest in New York? It all had to do with the judges ruling against Trump for all those millions of dollars, and truckers got Trump supporting truckers in this country got pissed off, and they said they were going to start boycotting deliveries to New York. Do you know anything about that? Did that actually start to commence?
Yes. I haven't followed up on the subject to know if it's like really going down that way or not, but yes, there was a ruling out of New York against DJP and DJT, and
Yeah.
they're like, we're not going to take orders, we're not going to deliver to New York, like F off. We'll shut you down. So that's how they're doing it in this country, which is interesting that in this country where you'd think like, oh, they're unpopular, so you'd think we'd show up with tractors spraying shit on the White House, turn it into the Brown House, but they quelled that with the J6 and the way they've treated everybody that was even involved in that moment on January 6th. So people, I think, are nervous.
That's a good point, because there was one loud voice among those truckers wanting to boycott New York who flipped his script big time. He's like, hey, just kidding. I have nothing to do with any of this. I'm not an organizer. I am going to be laying low, essentially. Like someone definitely talked to that guy, whether it's the IRS or a knock on his door or the cops pulled him over, whatever it was. One of those organizers has already renounced everything he was doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're blessed to be able to talk about this. We're blessed to be able to spread a message. We're blessed to be at least in a state of affairs where we're like trying to become more aware, trying to be listen, dissect, take apart, don't I mean, right now it's Spain, Germany, France that are doing these protests. There's more also. Netherlands,
Denmark, Belgium.
Belgium.
Are Netherlands and Denmark, are they the same? They might be. Might be two names.
No, Netherlands Netherlands is a country.
Yeah.
Denmark's
but, so is Denmark, but I really think we're referring to the same place. I can't quite recall. Like Netherlands,
I don't think so. Because they say they're from Denmark. And the Netherlands is like right over there, because Finland's right after that.
No, no, Finland's way up north, where it's
Uh,
Norway, Sweden, Norway, Finland, going from west to east.
Sweden somebody just approved Sweden to join NATO. Also,
Oh yeah, and Finland, I believe, already kind of fast tracked that for themselves, which was silly because they share a 1,000-mile border with Russia, and they're going to be one of the first to get steamrolled. They used to be very neutral for a very long time, or something like that.
well, they got the right
Yeah, hey,
politicians in.
back to this truck business though. This happened not too long ago, a few years back in the great state of Colorado, where a there was a really horrible accident involving a truck coming down from the high country, and he didn't use the runaway truck ramp to stop his out of control vehicle, and he kept going, tried to. I'm sure it's a terrifying thing to use a runaway truck ramp if you're in a speeding rig, but he wound up killing someone or someone's in just this really terrible, tragic accident. And a judge gave him 100 years, which was shocking to a lot of people because this guy in the heat of the moment, terrified of dying, opted to not use the runaway truck lane, but then that negligence caused him to kill someone. And it just seemed a very extreme, uh, uh, sentence for what happened. But truckers started protesting the state of Colorado, and they leveraged that guy's sentence down to 10 years because you want to bring things to a halt, stop trucking, stop that movement of commerce and goods. So it happened once in Colorado, not too only a couple or 3 years ago. It happened, and that truckers protest, they got what they wanted, and it's a staggering amount of power that a lot of us are really unaware of. I mean, you and I have educated ourselves a little bit on this, but a lot of people don't know how effective it can be. Like when the truckers went and took over, what is it, Ottawa? Is that the capital of
Hmm,
Canada?
Canada.
It was really a lot of trouble for the
Was it Toronto?
I forget what the
Whatever.
capital of our
Yeah,
most,
whatever.
our
Well, the
closest neighbor
capital is
next to
Toronto.
Mexico is.
The
So
capital is Toronto, I believe.
capital's Toronto, not Ottawa. Yeah, like I said, I should know this,
Oh,
but
I think we've dropped about 3 or 4 mistakes already in this podcast, and I
look at
have
us
no problem
go.
with it. We're not here like we're off the top of our head on a lot of things, and it's fine. We also, hey, disclaimer, we make mistakes. We do it a lot. We'll tell you there's, like right now, we'll be like, I think that's what I meant. Maybe that's off. Maybe I'm off about that little detail. Whatever. There's truckers in Canada. Well, we've watched it. We've talked about, we've had complete programs about protesting. Um, and it's just good to know that it's still happening. So that's out there. That's a good way to start today, is to even talk about like, hey, this is also happening. And let's segue really quick though to like, did you go to that protest on Friday or
I did.
Thursday or
It,
Wednesday?
it wasn't a protest. It was an event in support of getting Julian Assange released from prison.
Oh, okay.
And it was in downtown Denver, right in front of the state capitol. And when I drove up, I initially drove past and circled the Capitol. And I was looking for parking too, but I looked up there and it was like, oh, this thing started 20 minutes ago, and there's 25 people.
Oh my goodness. That's it.
Oh yeah, it was kind of heartbreaking because I got a parking spot, an illegal parking spot. It was like for federal employees or state employees or something like that. So I didn't stay too long. I just wanted to check it out. But yeah, I got up there right in front of the Capitol. They were set up. They had a little, a mic and a speaker, and the guy was talking about how devastating it can be for journalism if the U.S. government prosecutes Julian Assange, who we know through the propaganda is a publisher and not a hacker, and he did the same exact thing that every newspaper in the country does every day.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about how chilling it's going to be for the industry of journalism because people will know it's like, well, that guy is not even American, and they did that to him. Um, but yeah, it was pretty sad because I wanted to be there, I wanted to show up, I wanted to just like be present and just let the world know it's like, hey, here's just one more person, but there's hardly anyone there.
Oh,
There's
wow.
hardly anyone there. And, it's sad because the people on the conservative right spectrum of politics grew to hate him because he was exposing secrets of the Republican Bush administration. And back then the left was all about Julian Assange. They loved him to death. But this guy is not on a political side. He said it before, he's kind of like on the side of telling the truth and exposing secrets that need to be out there that we should know about, that we should be informed about. And when when he got the Hillary Clinton emails back in 2016, people blamed him for her loss to Donald Trump, as if she didn't suck so bad that she lost to a game show host, which
More
props
than
to
that.
Jimmy Dore.
Yeah.
That's his joke because it's a good one, but she did suck so bad that she lost to a game show host. But people blame Assange for her losing, and the left turned on him. The left hates him, and they shouldn't, because it's not about right or left for this guy. It's about exposing evil that our country is doing.
Yeah, but they keep telling the left the right did this, the right keeps being told the left did that, and then they just hate each other, and we make no actual progress. There's division created, so we don't go after what we really need to go after. Here we are with Julian Assange, being only a publisher, not even a whistleblower, just a publisher who is publishing people that were whistleblowers information. Time and time again, I faced it before where I whistleblowed at work, and then I got in trouble because the person I went and whistleblowed information to and said this is happening went immediately to my my director, and I was called into the office. So like they immediately turned around and backstabbed me. Immediately. The
Yeah,
people
instant
I went
backlash.
to, yeah, and the people I went to that were supposed to be protecting our safety if you're not being protected by your work. So I've literally faced the backlash of that stuff. And then my work changed all of its practices because it was doing stuff that was super like dangerous.
So they
And
came down on you, but it worked though. You
I
got that
got
to straighten out on
I
that for a
got
little
it
bit.
fixed. Yeah, I got it fixed. But that's the thing. I never heard again from the agency. I just heard from my director. And then we started fixing things. And it was like, I had already come to you guys. I had already said all this and you did nothing. That's why I went there. The moment I went up the chain, they snapped back on me. And whatever. The rest
Well,
remains history.
dude, you're lucky you didn't
Um,
work for the government or the CIA, because they would put you in jail
mm,
for that. Fun
well,
fact, not a lot of people know, Barack Obama used the Espionage Act more than every other president before him combined to prosecute whistleblowers.
that's the
And
thing.
he
It's
claimed he would do the exact opposite.
yes, they say they're like, no, we need whistleblowers to come out. Then we'll know things are wrong. The moment any whistleblower comes out, Chelsea Manning comes out, they then destroy them. They destroy those people, and in some cases, they actually kill people. I said unalive people.
Why do we do that on Alive nowadays? I see that
Because
on
I
the
think it's
internet
because
quite a bit.
AI doesn't pick up on it the same.
Okay.
It's the K words, like that's dangerous. Remember, like when you were a kid and you couldn't say the word like, or you couldn't be playing cars, and then you'd be like, oh, that car, that somebody died in that car. And I remember like getting in trouble, or if I talked about dead or dead people, anything, it was always like, yeah, it was almost like I was cursing. I don't
Oh,
know. Maybe
so
you
we
didn't grow
weren't
up like
supposed to
that.
talk about dead people?
Do you remember that, or do you maybe didn't have that experience? I was like not allowed to like talk about death or dead people or dying or any of that stuff. Like if I smashed two cars together or something, I would get in trouble for like saying
No, I did that. That must have been
it's maybe
more unique to
specific
your
to me.
household than mine.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah,
yeah,
not too much. But it's funny. Like our media is so in love with death and murder and crime and all these things. God forbid you show a woman's breasts, but
yeah.
you can't do that. But you could see all kinds of people getting murdered and mauled
Oh yeah,
and
fear.
blown up on TV constantly, always.
Yeah, fear. Well, that's the Project Mockingbird doing their darndest to really do a propaganda campaign of fear um, through music, through television, through entertainment sources, through media. And with that being said, we have reached the point in the program. Break the news. We are
All
here with
right.
breaking news. This is interesting. There were some things that were affected last week in the news cycle. AT&T was having outages. We don't know
And
exactly why
multiple
yet.
phone companies.
Multiple phone companies.
T-Mobile was in there too.
And they tossed around two ideas, kind of like, why did this happen, other than like somebody screwed up somewhere.
It was
Um,
hackers and a software update for AT&T.
so I think this news that you saw an article earlier, so let's hand it off to you.
Great, great.
And
So this is
fix your blurry. I think you're blurry. Maybe I'm just blurry. I like how you disappeared.
we're gonna go with what we got. Hey, so this is a interesting little article in the New Yorker, and it's titled "What a Major Solar Storm Could Do to Our Planet." And the lead is disturbances on the sun have the potential to devastate our power grid and communication systems. When the next big storm arrives, will we be prepared for it? Now, a quick and easy answer is yes, the sun can take out our power grid if it flared hard enough and it was earth facing. Um, it does that every 100 150 years, a big enough solar flare that if it is pointed at the earth when it happens, will knock out our power grids. The quick explanation of that is the, there are disturbances on the sun, and every now and then they blow off energy in the form of like an explosion, essentially. And those explosions will carry plasma into space, and the plasma is electrically charged, and it will travel the 92 million miles or whatever it is between the sun and here. It'll take a couple of 3 or 4 days for it to reach us, but when that electrified plasma interacts with our planet, our ionosphere, our magnetosphere, it sends an electrical charge down into the earth because that's what it is. It's electromagnetic energy coming from the sun, travels through space, interacts with our planet, and that energy is transferred directly into the earth. As it does, it's going to hit things like copper wires, transformers, stuff like that, and it's going to add that extra electrical energy to what they're already carrying, and it's going to short out those systems. It's going to melt wires, it's going to blow up transformers, things like that. Now, the last really big one to happen was in 1859. They called it the Carrington event. Very exciting time, but there wasn't really a power grid back then, so it didn't do anything. If we got a similar solar flare that was facing the Earth today, it could, in all likelihood, take out the power on the entire planet. Now that the doom and gloom is past, the
Question:
really, yeah, ask your question.
would it matter like what side was facing the sun? Like
It
if
does
it
not.
like okay, because you're the way you just described it, like charges the earth, and
Yes,
then
it charges the Earth.
and then the earth's magnetic electrical magnetic charge, which I would guess it can hold like this amount to this amount, and it doesn't like flare off on us and then like destroy things topside. So when that maybe fills up, and if it was from a solar flare, that would they create too much energy and the earth can't hold it, and then that's when we pay the consequences.
Well, the Earth can take a huge flare without it affecting anyone. You could be, just standing on the ground, the giant
Mm-hmm.
solar flare happens, all the lights go out, but you're fine because it's not going to flare you. It's electrical energy going
Mm-hmm.
into the earth, and it happens to jump into things that are good conductors like copper wires.
Okay, understood. Okay, okay, so that's what I'm saying. Okay, I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like the earth can only hold so much before our electric wires, copper, things like that. It can before they get disrupted.
Yeah, if I have it correctly, the
Understood.
energy on its way from space to the earth will interact with things like wires
Okay,
and
understood.
transformers and power stations and
And
things like that.
yeah, the earth can't ground it out. It's like it's too
No, the earth grounds it out, but as it is,
as
that
it arrives
electricity
here.
is going from space to the earth where the earth grounds it and absorbs that energy.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now there are strong arguments that would say that extra electrical energy that the earth absorbs will affect the mantle and the planetary crust, and you'll have uptake in earthquakes. There's really good science that shows that when there's electrical energy from the sun interacting with the earth, storms will intensify.
Okay.
There are all kinds of things that will happen. But for the humans living on the earth, we could lose our electric grid. Now it's happened in small scale before. I think in Canada in the late 80s, they had a big power blackout because there was a solar flare that affected the earth. And and part of their grid couldn't handle the extra energy. If your grid is old and weak, it's more likely to suffer ill effects. If your grid
Okay.
is new and modernized, it's less likely. You can essentially protect your power grid from excess energy like solar flares, but it's a lot of money.
I wonder if the cables, like intercontinental cables, like where we grew up,
Yeah.
there's many cables that go from right where we were born, right where we were raised in the Jersey Shore, all the way to Europe, or at least that's what we're told.
Yeah, now
And
they're like fiber optic cables and
yes, yeah, yeah, they
but there were
put it in the cabling
telecommunication
system.
cables that crossed
Yep,
the Atlantic. Yeah.
yeah, they put them across the Atlantic, and that's why like they talk about satellites. Like a lot of the stuff is already like run that like that's how I don't know. I guess we also use satellites, but
Yeah, satellites are totally effed in a big solar storm.
yeah. Yeah, I wonder if the that would be protected. Okay. I think we've imagine okay, how about this? Imagine if because we've already talked like about there's psychic operations going on and
Hmm.
these psychic warriors we've spoken about like Joseph McGonigal and people like
Hmm.
that with remote viewing. And then within remote viewing, there is other projects also where they were more like psychic warriors than just like information gatherers. They could go
Psychics
do
doing psychic stuff.
yeah, like doing the men at stare goat stuff, you know. What if they had these guys harness the sun and like use it to like a weapon? That would be crazy, bro. That would be like heavy duty Dr. Evil craziness.
That'd be super impressive because like Apollo, the Greek god, was the god of the sun. Like you got to be god level powers.
Well,
But
you're gonna have to unalive a bunch of babies or something. Like you can't
yeah,
just do that. Like you're gonna have to
some
have
heavy sacrifices.
there's gonna be a big yeah. You have to have a lot of sacrifice to appease Apollo.
Well, bro, no, look, it's super interesting that you bring it up that way because there is a thing going on with the sun that very well may be um, something like a mass psychic event. And there's this phenomenon called the Earth facing quiet. It's been going on since 2010, 2011, somewhere like that. And it's really fascinating because you have these big sunspots. It's a sunspot is a magnetic disturbance on the surface of the sun. It will often lead to solar flares. And the solar flare, not every time, but often, when the flare happens, it will release um, plasma from the sun into space. And there's this really weird thing that happens that you have these big crackling solar flares coming around, rotating on the sun. And as they start to point towards Earth, they go quiet. And they've been doing it for years. And this is a hobby of mine. Obviously, I've educated myself on it. I watch, um, little videos of what's the sun doing today. It's called space weather. And for whatever reason, I got into space weather back around like 2010 because I find it interesting. Maybe it's 2011. Um, but since 2011, the Earth facing quiet phenomenon has been a thing. It has happened before too. There was a time when there was a
Well,
astronomy husband-wife team named the Monders,
mm-hmm.
and they were big into observing the sun. And they have a little event named after them called the Maunder Minimum, where there was really, really low solar activity. And curiously, without extra electricity leaving the sun and interacting with our planet got cold at the same time. File that away wherever you want. But this thing about the Earth facing quiet is actually a thing. And I want to give a quick shout out to a fellow named Ben Davidson. He's got a channel called Suspicious Observers. This, along with a little more run of the mill space weather show called spaceweather.com, is where you can find out all kinds of stuff. But if you check out Ben Davidson's Suspicious Observers media in whatever form you want, you can find a lot of really interesting stuff. But he points out that this Earth facing quiet that began in 2010, 2011 happened right around the time one of these big sun directed satellite telescopes came online. It's like the GOES satellite or something like that. That might be one of our mistakes happening right now in real time. Um, but when that satellite came online, there was something like 1 million people started observing the sun like overnight. And that's when the Earth facing quiet began. It very well could be like people in general who look at the sun know that if there's a big enough solar flare, we could be in really bad shape as a species because our electric grids go down. So these million people collectively are thinking, man, I hope we don't get anything bad happening today. Only good things. And
Yes.
Ben Davidson has put forth the idea that earth facing quiet is a psychic phenomenon. The collective psychic power of a million people observing the sun. And it's a really interesting phenomenon because you're talking about using the sun to attack. It looks like there's people whose consciousness might be affecting the way the sun behaves towards us.
What consciousness is, or study, or try to understand what consciousness is, it would seem that consciousness would be able to do things like that. Would be able to, because the sun is part of this third dimensional reality. The sun, the moon, it's like a balance, wet, dry. That's the balance in this world, the sun and the moon. The both luminaries, both shining a light. One's a cold light, one's a hot
Mhm.
light. These people having effect over the would be completely feasible to me, because we are the manifestation, like we are the manifestors. That's like one of our special abilities is manifestation. It's why if you're looking at somebody, or I'm sorry, if you feel like somebody's looking at you and then you look up and you see that person looking at you, it's because their consciousness effect was now permeating onto your consciousness, because they were observing
Yeah, you
your
felt the psychic
consciousness.
tingle. Your sixth sense was speaking up.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Your consciousness became alert to somebody else was now manifesting like within your consciousness or next to it, just in the fact of observing, because that's part of manifestation. That's the
Mm.
part of creation. That's shown in the double blind slit study, where they, just by observing, that would change the results of the outcome. So we've had enough science show us. You can look back to the elders, Paramahansa Yogananda, people like this. You learn even more. You start to see that it is scientific in a way. These special abilities that we hold. Meanwhile, we feel like we're these victims of like this cosmic energy, like, and then you're saying this earth quiet shows we're not just victims of the cosmos. We in fact can change and manifest and make it different than it would have been shown in past results.
Think how big that could be if it really is a thing. And
No, it is a thing.
I give a lot of credit to this idea because you and I understand manifestation. You and I understand consciousness in the ways that the scientific, materialistic, reductionist community out there doesn't give credit to. I don't buy any of that crap about materialistic reductionism. It just denies the existence of a soul and God and psychic powers and any number of things. It's ridiculous. But think about that for a second. There's a potential civilization destroying catastrophe that could happen like right now. There's no rules on says that says when it should or shouldn't happen. The sun can just put off a really big solar flare. It does every couple of 100 years with regularity. And if the human collective power of a couple of people casually observing the sun as they check in the morning to see what it's doing can prevent an earth-shattering catastrophe. Think what we could do if we could actually harness that energy to do something productive.
Well,
Like,
that's been shown in studies, like negative. One person can have like effect over so many. Like one person working with one person now creates an energy force that's more than 1 + 1.
mhm, yeah,
It's not just two, it's like three or more. So when you take people in groups, and then if they're looking for a similar outcome, they're manifesting or they're using their consciousness in similar ways to the others, you now can take a force where, like you said, it's a million people viewing this. I was just in my head trying to think quick math. I'm like, wow, that's a crazy low percentage of people on Earth. If you look at like 7 to 8 billion people we have here, that percentage is like really wild to think 1 million people could be doing this great affecting over just how the sun actually reacts, versus where modern day science would say the sun is not supposed to react like that, and then we can change it. That's the power of consciousness. Consciousness is everything that drives this realm. When the Hindus would say that this is Maya, we live in Maya, the illusion. It's because that's what consciousness is. Consciousness is not a table. Consciousness is the illusion that there's a table. Consciousness is the world where these things are created, but then come here and then we can slow the vibration down so much that we will actually forget that all we are is viewing a level of consciousness, and now we think it's a real thing, and that's more real than consciousness. That's the lie. That's the great lie. If you can get two people to put their consciousness together, and like I just said, it's more powerful than two.
Yeah.
It's now like exponential numbers. A million. And then what would happen if we do this for good? This is what, when people talk about world peace, I don't know if they understand that's what they're really talking about is this. It's not that there will be no more wars. While in this realm, war is just a fact of life, because that might mean you're defending your freedom because you're being oppressed or tyranny is upon you. So war isn't always bad. War is a way to make money is bad. We can raise our consciousness, and that's what the change would be. What's the number?
The number of that million people versus the planet.
Yes.
You saw me doing the math.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really funny. So that's 1 in 8,000 people on this planet choose to manifest something. And mind you, that's not even consciously manifesting. That is just a natural human reaction to not want their power to go out today. So when they're looking at a solar flare, it's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to track this. Man, that better not happen today. I got shit to do.
And you're actually saying it the way that would manifest it to happen, but I understand where you're at. But that's literally 1 in 8,000 people are aware of something happening, and that those 1 in 8,000 people may possibly be changing the outcome for all 8,000 people.
Right. And we talk about the
which is 8 billion
monkey. Right?
Yes.
You know, we don't need that. We don't need 100th monkey, 8 billion. We don't need 80 million people doing this. This is a million. It's quite a bit less. It's not 1 in 100. This is 1 in 8,000, and it's affecting it. And it's not even an active thing. Now, you brought up a really good point that I completely failed to recognize, even as I was talking. They have done these things before with our mass meditations where it's organized. They gather 50, 60, 70,000 people, and they meditate on peace today. And crime rates in cities all across either in the places where they're doing it or just in general, crime rates will go measurably down because people are using their mind to manifest a peaceful day.
Well, that's, I guess, in a nutshell, what we're talking about. That's the Agents of Aquarius.
Right.
That is what the Agents of Aquarius is about. This idea that we can affect the group by operating at a conscious level, or have consciousness vibrating at a certain level, start to understand that we're just looking at frequencies all around us. That's all we're seeing, frequencies in a form that looks like something else, and it's not. It's just light. It's just a frequency of light.
It's light, it's energy, it's not matter though. You all heard it before that the atoms that make up all the things around you are nothing but empty space, and they're held together with energy.
Meanwhile, we're being broadcast fear, we're being broadcast division, we're being broadcast a lack of abundance, and starvation. And now we can just get into crazy words. That's what we're being broadcast. Hate, racism. Hey people, it's just light. We're all light bodies taking a frequency that looks like this human figure, and carbon-based characters running around. We're all the exact same amount of carbon, dude. And racism is where they want to put us. They want us so divided on sex and sexuality. I'm going to tell you what, there's only one rule: leave the kids alone. Leave minors alone. That's it. The rest is adult shit. You never do anything, to interact. Do
so I can start humping my shoes right now. Yes.
I mean, just don't
hump the kid's shoe.
Yeah, that's weird. It's not a kid. All right, dude, we've gone off course. I wish we are light beings. That's it. And we're being divided into all these other things so that we forget that what we are is here as light beings, taking on a form of consciousness with group consciousness, overlaying our individual personal consciousness. And then we're like, no, we need to listen to the government. It's like, no, dude, the government is supposed to be there to protect you. And the government is supposed to be there to just take care of those big things. We just have a little we have a body that takes care of those big things so we can have nice roads and take care of things like that. Not a problem. The government needs to be so small. And here we are, so bloated, out of control, that we are then handing other governments billions of dollars so they can have war that we have no business to do with. And this is the madness of the world they present to us, so that we won't be the one in the 8,000. So we won't make it 1 in 800. So that we won't make it 1 in 80. So we won't make it 1 in 8 people doing it. Imagine what we could do if it got to 1 in 8 people. We're all focusing their energy on a higher consciousness, on a level where we can just disrupt and dismantle these like systems of enslavement and poverty, and just dismantle it all. But
Oh,
1 in
bro,
8,
that you said it. That's the age of Aquarius. That's what the agents of Aquarius are all about. You know, a rational, sane, loving government would hire people to be meditated on peace every day. It's like, hey, we got an actual Peace Corps doing an actual thing and meditating on righteous things to manifest into our world, because that's, as you said, like that's the big game that we can't be allowed to do, because people in general tend to want nice things, I guess. I mean, just like the whole life, liberty, and happiness. It's like you want to be happy.
yeah, but
And
you don't even need nice things.
no, I mean nice things like the concepts of life, liberty, and
Oh,
happiness. Like that's my joke.
100%.
It's not about like cars. I don't want people to, we're not going to have a department of, we're not going to have the car cores. We're going to have the peace cores.
Yes. And when we say Peace Corps, we literally, that's an amazing, beautiful thing to say. Like, oh, no, we have people that we just pay them to meditate and help raise the conscious and like maintain the consciousness, maintain a frequency. And in this inverse world we're in, this literally this end of February here in 2024, we're literally, Peace Corps would mean like, oh, they're out, they're like doing evil or something. Like, I don't know what the Peace Corps really does. You
I don't
hear
know what
what
the Peace
you
Corps
hear, what
does
you
either.
hear, whatever. I'm not, but we're in the world of the upside down, where Peace Corps is like the opposite. It's like the War Corps.
It probably is. It
Yeah.
probably is.
Well, our Department of Defense happens to be all over the world. Like,
Attacking and
yeah.
killing all over the world. Yeah.
What used to be called the Department of War, but
It is the upside down, though. I mean,
yeah.
that's what we get. And, Pine, a lot of times we talk about the Yugas, and I find it so fascinating. And now we are apparently leaving the Kali Yuga, and it just happens to get, tagged with the other phrase, the Age of Aquarius is coming on. But I really think deep on this sometimes, because I ask myself, it's like, how are people so disconnected from how this world actually runs? And how are the psychopaths and how are the murderous people so entrenched in being in charge of everything on this planet? And it starts to make sense when you think of this as a yuga, but man, it's sure feeling like it's a good time to move on to something else. The other one of these other cycles that are more positive and bring a higher vibe, where you do have a Peace Corps meditating on peace on earth. And I don't know how to understand it and have hope without framing it in some reference where there's a structure, that this is only happening because some divine reason behind it, but that this age is passing into another age that will be more civilized, more enlightened.
That's the thing. The Hindus wrote about this. They do a lot of study on the yugas. Their astrology, the Hindu astrology, is some of the most precise and accurate astrology in the world. It's called Jyotish astrology, Jyotish. They're amazing astrologers. They're really good at looking at cycles. They're obviously holding some information from an olden time, a time from before where we don't really have access to that information unless you go look at their information directly. It seems like a lot of that stuff's been stolen and changed. So what I'm getting at is, there are people that have looked at time cycles, and that's what these yugas are. The yugas are time cycles with the characteristics to them, and the characteristics are basically the same as like a lot of things in Hinduism. It's a like 4-part, and there's 4 parts to the cycle, and they run in different cycles of 1,200 years, and 2,400 years, and 24,000 years, and then there's grander ones that are 166,000 years.
Hmm.
And then there's grander ones than that. So it's like you're locked in all of these cycles. And when the gears shift and the gears change, and when the gears line up, that's when you start having the whole time there's growing going on. The growing is of this consciousness. We're at this part, and the yugas kind of explain where we're at in the cycle. And the cycle right now is very, it's a time when you would think the table is real and God is dead. Like
Yeah,
that's
because
kind of,
consciousness is
yeah,
struggling
yeah,
in
we're
the
going
Kali
through a
Yuga.
time where losing your way is part of it. It's like that's the beauty of the whole thing. Is like, why would we have to go through all this? It's like, because we're just like, we're some higher level of consciousness trying to experience other levels of consciousness so that it can understand the whole thing better, instead of just staying at one high level of dimensions and consciousness. That's great, but there's like all this depth of things that can happen, and it's all perceptions, and it's all like it's all an illusion. Meanwhile, go stub your toe on your couch and you're like, it's, what do you mean this is an illusion, Jim? And it's like, it is. That's how good the illusion is, bro. We're trying to make 3D world, like people are putting Oculuses on, and they're putting this
Yeah.
one, like Google glasses, and we are trying to harness the ancient technologies of like telekinesis. I've said this for years. I've been saying this for years. Like, that's what bothers me about computers and things like that, are that we think that that's better than what we already have. Like, we already have like, you can already communicate. You can already do things. You can move things with your mind because of the powers of manifestation. What we were just talking about. You can change the sun's energy that can be measured with scientific tools, these tools that are like, and then we can just change it. And that's why this whole field of consciousness, this field of psychic things, has been completely um uh not erased, partly erased, but
Mhm.
mostly just poisoned. And they don't let you see the real truth of like how powerful we really are.
And that really seems to be the game, doesn't it? You know,
Sure
we
does.
have, even without talking about the psychic power of a million people manifesting something, even just a million people getting out to do something, you will shut things down because the controllers just don't have the numbers. And you've heard it before that our populations are all just sleeping giants. Because if we all collectively say, you know, we're gonna let go of this bullshit that we all are supposed to hate each other, and we're gonna focus our attention on who's really keeping us down, and we're gonna make some changes to make things right, and we're gonna get ourselves health care and a decent minimum wage and fair housing and stuff like that. You know, if we could get our priorities straight, stop hating each other, and start looking out for our collective, even without the psychic ability to manifest, we're making huge changes. Now, for us, because we are the agents of Aquarius, of course, we're going to stick with the manifesting side of things because it's magic. It's literal, fantastic magic. Um, in the context of technology, to someone who doesn't understand it, is also magic. Um, but we know the placebo effect is real. This is why we have double blind studies, because the person receiving the medicine doesn't know, they're blind, and the person administering the medicine doesn't know if it's a placebo or if it's actual medicine. That's why it's double blind, because the person who's getting the medicine can't read the other person giving it to them and start thinking like, oh, they know I'm not getting real medicine. They feel bad for me or something like that. Like, both people need to be ignorant of who's getting what in the experiment. But at the end of the day, what happens is, and someone who believes they're getting medicine will get better, even if they got a sugar pill. Like, it is so magic and so mind blowing how it works. and it is so well understood how it works. That's why you have a double-blind study. You think it would be taught in every university in the world, and it should be, but it's not, because we're not supposed to use that power. We're supposed to be dumb animals who just do what we're told and eat the poison and take the poison that's supposed to be medicine. And we keep getting dumber and sicker and dying younger. In the meanwhile, the controllers who control this planet are having the time of their lives.
Yeah, in those universities, there are studies happening, and then you bury the studies. Our military has used it. We know about our military using it. If you're talking about sugar pills and placebos, that is all the realm of, like, just go listen to the podcast, Sean Ryan, when he has Joseph McGonigal on. It's not that long ago. I mean, it's good. I think it happens literally, just look around December or January of 2023. December of 2023, January 2024 is when that episode pops. Go listen to that. And that's an actual military person, a person who was in our military. And this has already been out. This is all through FISA. We've gotten the information, lots of it redacted, but we had psychological warriors. We've talked about it during this podcast. The people that are possibly having the quiet side effect, the million people, the 1 in 8,000 people that are having an effect that changes what the sun can do. And then here we are being divided. Instead, we can literally, we're so powerful, guys. We are so powerful. That's what this podcast is about. A lot of it sounds like doom and gloom at times, bro. And it's only because we have to shine a light into the dark so that we know what's happening, so you can understand kind of what's going on. But it all comes down to it. It's about this stuff. It's about consciousness. It's about breaking down this illusion. We're in an illusion, having a podcast about illusion. Yeah, that's what we're doing. And we're trying to remind people this is an illusion, but that doesn't mean it's fake. It's not, because you can get so locked in this illusion that it's the most real thing ever. Go look at somebody dependent on drugs. It's like the demonic form of this illusion. It's so hard. It's so real. It's so, I think that person is a spiritual being, and this is what they choose. It's crazy, bro. That's how hard this illusion is.
Yeah,
But it's still
that's
an
a
illusion.
spiritual being having a human experience. And it's not the other way around.
Tell me that's
It-
not that's not demonic. That's your human experience you're having. It's like you're literally creating a demonic experience. This doesn't mean you have to get in robes. Those people are consciously having demonic experiences. They get in robes and do crazy things. They're having they're like maybe not on drugs. They might be straight edge. And they're just like, they get off on this weird conscious level, making darkness. These other people, it's like a demon gets on their back and then they just sit there with the demon.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us will face it at some at harder levels and some at more subtle levels. People that watch this program are going to be like, I can identify with that, because I can identify with that. I know you can identify with that.
Mhm.
I'm not. It's chilling how real it is. We are God. We are the devil, because we are creation trying to experience it itself. What are you experiencing?
Yeah, and push back against that materialistic reductionism we were talking about before, because that just puts everything into like, yeah, you came from monkeys, and when you die, you're dead. You're nothing but worm food. But when you start to look at this from the perspective of, it's not that consciousness is a result of matter, but it's the other way around. The matter is the result of the consciousness. The consciousness
Mm,
precedes it. And somehow collectively we've managed to manifest this earth. And there's a whole bunch of us here who have a collective understanding that, oh yeah, we all live on a planet and we're all here. Um, but we start to harvest that energy and we start to manifest things more specifically, and you get a way different result. Now I do want to drop into something real quick, because maybe you wonder why the manifestation is so hard for so many people in war-torn countries and things like that, or the inner city where the drug epidemics are doing their thing. We need to keep in mind something, that on an individual level, I could sit in my room, get all quiet and meditate and try to, and do the exercises to manifest things into my life that I want to be in my life. whether that's happiness or affluence or whatever. Um, I spend 10 minutes or 30 minutes focused on what I want to manifest in my life. But then I go back into my normal day. And in the background of my mind, my subconscious is always running some programs left over from my childhood where I'm thinking in terms of lack and not having enough, and people don't like me, and whatever other stupid little psychological pitfalls we spend our time in. So I spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes meditating about manifesting something nice in my life, but then I spend the rest of my waking hours with this background noise in my brain where I'm just on negative thought patterns. And I wonder why my manifestation didn't work. Oh, I thought about, you know, um, my podcast taking off for 20 minutes today. Why isn't it taking off? Well, it's like, well, shit, because you're spending so much of your time, your background subconscious mind is so busy making things, manifesting things like a state of lack. And this is where spiritual bypassing comes in. If I get all high and high minded and high vibe when I'm meditating, but then for the rest of my day, I'm just psychologically in a cesspool of my mind, I'm not ever going to manifest these wonderful things because I haven't fixed the things that need to be fixed first. Maybe our
Mm-hmm.
society runs in the same way. Maybe it's because we're chasing the capitalist dream of making money and we opt to screw other people over in the process of doing it. And you wonder why the world's in a bad way, because we might want to manifest something nice, but what's going on the majority of the time might not be nice. Maybe that's the way the world is the way it is because our minds are kind of cesspool.
Well, it's our minds can be. To say they are a cesspool would be like, oh, we're innately cesspool mind. No, you have to remember we're sitting here in 2024 with going through, we both went through high school education, like up to a high school education here in the United States, which was all dictated and part of government programming. Like, dude, like that, imagine if they taught us the ways of manifestation. Imagine if they had things in the library that you went and studied, like about Paramahansa Yogananda. I don't know how to say his name.
Yogananda.
Yogananda
It's
over
like we're
here.
we're going to read the works of Patanjali.
Patanjali. Uh Patanjali.
Patanjali.
Patanjali. It's but we're that's the battle we're in. The battle we're in this consciousness right now is that we all have, once again, we all have an individual consciousness. You can be extremely unconscious. Those people would be unaware. They would be the NPCs going through the world, just going, no, I'm just going to trust what I'm told on all levels all the time. And then it's like, no, you're an NPC because you're like not participating. You're literally just going along with some programming. You're not asking any questions. Like, come on, bro.
You
Then
don't
what are
believe
you
in
doing?
any conspiracies?
Yeah, that's great. That's oh man, great comedian from the Comedy Store in Hollywood, Ron Funches. You
There you
don't
go.
believe in any conspiracies? It's like it's such a great approach. But yeah, that's literally it. Like I'm like so caught in like I need a better word because when I like tell people I go on stage and I say bring me up with Agents of Aquarius, they're like, well, what's it about? I'm like, consciousness.
Yeah,
Like,
great.
that's what I have to say. I'm like, like, you're gonna be sadly like changed if it's only about consciousness. No, we do a lot of uncovering here on this program, and we on this platform. This is what we do. We uncover things and then we try to speak about consciousness also. Like, hey man, let's not just get trapped in their world. Okay, we're bringing up what's happening here. The more you're aware of what's happening here, I think the more we'll go from 1 in 8,000 to 1 in 800.
Oh,
Because
you want to talk about a change?
oh,
That's
bro,
that's going to make for a big old change, isn't
bro,
it?
this I could go on. This could be like a George Carlin rant about what I'm about to say right now. We're in a society that doesn't let you know that what you're doing when you talk is casting spells. They're changing your mentality at times through programming that we even know was called MK Ultra programming, programming. we then think we're somehow not, like, if you just go with like status quo, if you don't think you're somehow caught in some type of like like lack of awareness, because you're just going along, you're literally not going to question anything. Like, that's Ron Funch's hell of a great joke. This is where we're at. That's the trap. That's what makes this trap work. That's what makes this illusion become what it is. When you go along with it and think that racism is real, when you go along with it and think homophobia is real, it's like, bro, there's 8 billion of us. There's no way you can get everybody on the exact same page about everything. Like, that's the beauty of this creation. That's the beauty of this illusion. But we need to remember what we truly are. And then we can have it's like, well, why are we having this experience anyway? It's like, so that we can become part-time enlightened, that we can be having these moments of light that they're like, oh, okay. And I just called it yesterday, the uncanceling, or on Saturday I just was like, I was like, the uncancelling's begun.
There
This
you
is where
go.
we're at. This is where we're at. We have reached the pinnacle. We have reached the point in this game where you and I have sat here for hours and hours, literally now 22 episodes released on this information. And we're not trying to go doom and gloom on the whole thing, bro. But the uncanceling has begun. We're so divided. We were like, let's just cancel people. That, like, we got to that point where, like, we'll make them not real, we'll destroy everything they have. And like, for not great reasons a lot of times. Sometimes, like, yeah, you should excommunicate people like that from the tribe, and that's the way it should be. But meanwhile, we have politicians, this, that, and the other happening. But I'm calling it, and I love it, because it's just this fat faced uh, brother from another mother from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Shane Gillis was on SNL, and it was like, that's the return. That's the return, dude. He was on that show for 1 week as they bring in new people for 1 week.
Was he a writer?
A writer, but he would also have been an actor and on skits, the whole thing. And he was there for 1 week, and he got canceled because of like a stupid joke and whatever. And it wasn't even bad. If you go watch it, it's like, whatever. Like, it's from 2012 on a podcast. Like, they're just talking on a podcast. That's
Oh,
like,
so they dug up some stuff
like,
from
cancel Howard Stern
years
then.
prior.
Cancel Howard Stern. He did blackface in the freaking 80s, 90s. In the 90s, he's doing blackface. Like,
Well, Howard Stern's establishment tool, though. Like, that's why he's not
that's
going to get
why he's not
canceled.
canceled.
Yeah.
Exactly. Shane Gillis is out of the thing. I have people that don't get how this all works, and they're like, no, he's sold out. I'm like, you have your opinion. Like, no, he's just getting paid from Bud Light, and he'll say what the frick he's gonna say. I'll tell you that right now, dude. But this is where we're at, guys. We're at the 1 in 8,000. We are ready to make the jump. Yeah, I know it doesn't have to go right to 1 in 800. It can go to 1 in 4,000. Sure, whatever. We got to get the numbers in our favor, and we can then take our consciousness, bonded together in that group consciousness. Group consciousness has no other choice but to change. It's just the way it's gotta be, dude. And you got to believe it before it happens. You got to see it. That's the part of what manifesting is. Manifesting is, you got to believe it before it happens. You got to see it before it becomes physical reality. That's just the way it is, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah, brother. Say thank you in advance.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think we could close out this podcast with a moment of silence for the undying of Lord Jacob Rothschild. Woohoo! Woo!
Here's your silence, son. It's a small thing that, when just part of this disgusting, controlling organization that has wreaked havoc on this planet for so long, it's a small thing when one of them just is, like you said, unalived and off the face of the earth. It's like, be gone. You're not good for the tribe. You're the exact opposite. You tricked the
Ding,
tribe into killing itself. By Lord,
ding,
not Lord Jacob. He's not my Lord.
ding.
Ding dong, the witch
Dong,
is dead.
witch
The witch is
dead.
dead.
The witch is dead. The witch is dead.